construction worker back there? Well, the faces we memorized, that was one of them.
Remember when asking for a raise at work felt risky? Well, imagine asking for so much money that your boss has decided to cancel the entire company instead. That's essentially what happened to these 10 TV shows when stars let their egos write checks their networks couldn't cash. Today we're counting down 10 series that got the axe because one actor decided they were worth more than the show itself. Spoiler alert, they usually weren't. Number 10, Chips. California highway patrol officers on motorcycles, solving crimes in the Golden State sunshine while rocking aviator sunglasses and perfectly feathered hair. Chips ran from 1977 to 1983 on NBC, giving America a weekly dose of Ponch and John cruising the freeways, rescuing stranded motorists, and making those tan uniforms look way cooler than they had any right to be. Eric Estrada played this charismatic Frank Poncherello, while Larry Wilcox was the straight-laced John Baker. Together, they were TV gold, a buddy cop dynamic that worked because of their chemistry, and the fact that they made highway patrol work look like the coolest job in America. At its peak, Chips was pulling in over 20 million viewers a week. Kids wanted Chips lunchboxes. Adults wanted Chips motorcycles. Everyone wanted to live in a world where traffic stops involved witty banter instead of awkward license checks. The show was a merchandising machine, and NBC was printing money faster than Ponch could flash that $1 million smile. But behind the scenes, things weren't nearly as sunny as those California highways. By season 5, Larry Wilcox wanted more money, and not just a little more. He wanted Eric Estrada money, which is understandable when you're co-leads on a hit show. The problem was, NBC didn't see it that way. They viewed Estrada as the breakout star, the guy whose face was on lunchboxes and whose smile sold magazines. Wilcox was, in their eyes, replaceable. Never mind that John Baker was half of what made the show work. The contract negotiations got ugly fast. Wilcox felt disrespected. NBC felt entitled to pay their stars whatever they wanted. Neither side was willing to budge. When Wilcox pushed for salary parity, NBC basically said, "Thanks for your service, but we'll take it from here." They wrote John Baker out of the show, replacing him with Bruce Jenner, yes, that Bruce Jenner, as Officer Steve McLeish. It was the TV equivalent of replacing your favorite burger joint with a health food store. Technically food, but completely wrong. The chemistry died faster than a motorcycle with sugar in the gas tank. Ratings plummeted. Fans revolted. Letters poured into NBC demanding Wilcox's return. But the network had made its decision and wasn't backing down. The show limped through one more painful season before NBC pulled the plug in 1983. Wilcox's salary demand didn't just cost him his job, it cost everyone their jobs. The crew, the writers, Eric Estrada, everyone lost because NBC decided to play hardball instead of paying fair. Larry Wilcox went on to produce and act in various projects, but never recaptured that Chips magic. Eric Estrada, meanwhile, became a reality TV fixture and continues working steadily, proving that sometimes being the network's favorite pays off in the long run. The lesson here: if you're going to demand more money, make sure you're actually the star the network can't live without. Otherwise, you might just accelerate your show's trip to the TV graveyard. Number 9, the Dukes of Hazzard. The Duke Boys, a souped-up Dodge Charger named the General Lee, and Daisy Duke shorts that made network censors nervous and parents everywhere questioned their television choices. The Dukes of Hazzard premiered in 1979 and became an instant cultural phenomenon. Tom Wopat and John Schneider played Bo and Luke Duke, good old boys running moonshine and outsmarting the corrupt Boss Hogg in Hazzard County, Georgia. It was car chases, southern charm, and more yeehaws than you could shake a stick at. Within its first season, it was pulling in over 20 million viewers every Friday night, making it one of CBS's biggest hits. By season 5, though, Wopat and Schneider decided they deserved a bigger piece of the pie. And honestly, they had a point. The show was a merchandising juggernaut. Lunchboxes, toy cars, action figures, Halloween costumes, you name it. The Duke Boys' faces were everywhere, but their paychecks apparently weren't keeping up with the millions CBS was making off their likenesses. They were reportedly earning around $35,000 per episode, while the network was raking in merchandising revenue hand over fist. So they did what any self-respecting TV star would do when they feel undervalued. They walked off the set mid-season in 1982. and refused to come back until CBS met their demands. It was a bold move, the kind of power play that either makes you a legend or destroys your career, sometimes both. CBS, however, wasn't in the mood to negotiate with what they saw as replaceable actors. Instead, they brought in two new Duke cousins, Coy and Vance, played by Byron Cherry and Christopher Mayer. The explanation? Bo and Luke had to leave town for reasons that were never quite clear, so their identical cousins showed up to fill in. It was one of the most transparent replacement jobs in TV history. Same car, same stunts, same plots, different faces. And audiences hated it immediately. The Coy and Vance episodes are now infamous among Dukes fans as the dark period, the awkward middle child nobody talks about at family reunions. Ratings tanked so hard that CBS eventually had no choice but to bring Wopat and Schneider back for season 6. The actors got some of what they wanted, but not all of it. Nobody really won. But the damage was done. The show never fully recovered its momentum and was canceled after season 7 in 1985. What makes this story particularly interesting is that both sides were kind of right. Wopat and Schneider deserved more money. They were the show. But their walkout strategy backfired spectacularly, proving that sometimes winning the battle means losing the war. The show got canceled anyway, and they spent a full season watching inferior replacements drive the General Lee while they sat at home, wondering if they'd made a massive mistake. Today, both actors look back on the experience with a mix of pride and regret. They reunited for various Dukes reunion projects over the years, and both have maintained steady careers. But The Dukes of Hazzard remains a cautionary tale about salary negotiations gone wrong, even when you're technically in the right. Number 8. Lois and Clark, The New Adventures of Superman. Faster than a speeding cancellation notice, Lois and Clark, The New Adventures of Superman flew onto ABC in 1993, reimagining the classic Superman story, with more romance, more humor, and more 90s hair gel than Metropolis had ever seen. Dean Cain played Clark Kent with boy-next-door charm, while Terry Hatcher brought Lois Lane to life as the ambitious, sassy reporter who could hold her own against any villain, including the ones in the Daily Planet's HR department. For 4 seasons, the show balanced superhero action with romantic comedy, giving us the will they won't they tension that made Ross and Rachel look decisive. When Lois and Clark finally got married in season 4, it felt like a cultural moment. Unfortunately, it also marked the beginning of the end. Behind the scenes, Dean Cain was renegotiating his contract for what would have been season 5. According to various reports, he wanted a significant salary increase, somewhere in the neighborhood of $80,000 to $100,000 per episode. For context, that was serious money in the mid-90s for a network TV drama. A BC looked at the numbers, looked at Cain's demands, and apparently decided that even Superman couldn't justify that price tag. The network tried to lowball him. Cain held firm. ABC blinked first, but not the way Cain probably hoped. Instead of meeting his demands, they just canceled the show. Just like that, Lois and Clark ended on a cliffhanger in 1997, with a mysterious baby showing up at Lois and Clark's doorstep, a plot thread that will never be resolved because Dean Cain priced himself out of closure. To be fair to Cain, the show was expensive to produce, and ratings had declined from their season 2 peak. But multiple cast and crew members have suggested that the salary dispute was the final nail in the coffin, the thing that pushed ABC from maybe one more season to let's just end it now. Cain has had a long career since, appearing in countless TV movies and series, while Hatcher went on to Desperate Housewives fame. But Lois and Clark fans still wonder what season 5 would have looked like, and whether that mysterious baby was actually a Kryptonian plot device or just ABC's way of saying, figure it out yourselves, we're done here. Number 7. Tour of Duty television. In the late 80s wasn't exactly drowning in Vietnam War dramas. Most networks considered the topic too controversial, too depressing, or too recent. Then CBS took a gamble with Tour of Duty in 1987, following a platoon of American soldiers through the jungles of Vietnam with gritty realism and emotional depth that felt decades ahead of its time. Terrence Knox played Sergeant Zeke Anderson, the grizzled platoon leader who kept his men alive through a combination of experience, instinct, and sheer willpower. Knox brought an intensity to the role that grounded the show's action in real human stakes. For 2 seasons, Tour of Duty delivered some of the most powerful war drama television had ever seen, tackling PTSD, moral ambiguity, and the cost of combat with unflinching honesty. Then Knox decided he was worth more money. Specifically, he wanted to renegotiate his contract before season 3, demanding a salary that would reflect his status as the show's anchor. CBS, however, was already nervous about the show's ratings. Tour of Duty was critically acclaimed but never a ratings juggernaut. It was the kind of show that won Emmys but lost time slots. When Knox pushed for a raise, CBS saw an opportunity to cut costs rather than increase them. They wrote Sergeant Anderson out of the show, killing him off screen between seasons. The 3rd season introduced new characters and tried to continue without Knox, but it was like watching a cover band play your favorite song. Technically correct, but missing the soul. Viewers tuned out in droves. The new cast members did their best, but Tour of Duty without Terrence Knox felt like a completely different show. And not in a good way. CBS canceled it after season 3 in 1990, bringing one of TV's most ambitious war dramas to an abrupt and unsatisfying end. Knox continued acting, notably appearing on St. Elsewhere, but Tour of Duty remains his most significant role. The show itself has become something of a cult classic, with military veterans praising its authenticity. But it's also remembered as the war drama that lost its war because its sergeant wanted better pay. Sometimes the most dangerous enemy isn't in the jungle, it's in the contract negotiation room. Number 6, Midnight Caller, late night talk radio, San Francisco noir, and a protagonist with a dark past. Midnight Caller premiered on NBC in 1988, following Jack Killian, played by Gary Cole, a former cop-turned-radio host who used his late-night show to connect with troubled callers while solving crimes and confronting his own demons. It was moody, atmospheric, and exactly the kind of adult drama that thrived in the late 80s before reality TV ate television's soul. Gary Cole brought an understated intensity to Jack Killian, making him feel like a real person rather than a TV detective in radio host clothing. The show found a loyal audience and critical acclaim, earning praise for tackling social issues like AIDS, homelessness, and addiction with nuance and compassion. For 3 seasons, Midnight Caller was NBC's thinking person's crime drama. But by 1991, as the show was gearing up for what everyone assumed would be season 4, Gary Cole decided it was time to renegotiate. He wanted a substantial raise, arguing that he'd carried the show for 3 years and deserved to be compensated accordingly. The problem was that Midnight Caller, while critically respected, was never a ratings powerhouse. It was the kind of show that won awards but didn't sell cars during commercial breaks. NBC looked at Cole's demands, looked at the ratings, and made a cold business calculation. They could probably make more money with a cheaper show in that time slot, so instead of negotiating further, they just canceled Midnight Caller. The series ended in 1991 without any real closure, just an abrupt stop like a radio signal cutting out mid-sentence. The cancellation shocked fans and critics alike. This wasn't a show that had run its course or jumped the shark. It was still producing quality episodes. But Gary Cole's salary demands gave NBC the excuse they needed to pull the plug on an expensive drama with modest ratings. Cole, to his credit, landed on his feet. He went on to an incredibly successful career, becoming one of Hollywood's most reliable character actors, with roles in Office Space, The Brady Bunch movie, and Veep. But Midnight Caller fans still wonder what happened to Jack Killian after that final episode, and whether Gary Cole regrets the negotiation that ended the show. Alright, we're halfway through our countdown of shows that got canceled because someone asked for too much money. Number 5, Jake and the Fat Man. Picture this. A tough Los Angeles district attorney and his investigator solving crimes while bantering like an old married couple. That was Jake and the Fat Man, which ran on CBS from 1987 to 1992. William Conrad played Jason Lochinvar, Fat Man McCabe, the rotund but brilliant prosecutor, while Joe Penny was Jake Stiles, his handsome streetwise investigator. Together, they formed one of late 80s television's most reliable procedural duos. The show was never going to win Emmys or revolutionize television, but it didn't need to. Jake and the Fat Man delivered solid, dependable crime-solving entertainment that appealed to CBS's older demographic. It was comfort food television, the kind of show that ran in the background during dinner and never demanded too much from its audience. By 1992, though, the show was starting to show its age. Ratings had declined from their peak, and CBS was looking for ways to either refresh the series or wrap it up gracefully. That's when William Conrad decided to make his move. He wanted a significant raise for what would have been season 6, arguing that as the title character and the show's biggest star, he deserved more money. Here's where it gets interesting. Conrad was 71 years old in 1992, and while he was still delivering solid performances, CBS executives wondered if he was really worth the investment. They'd already moved the show around the schedule multiple times trying to find the right fit. Conrad's salary demands gave them the perfect excuse to just cancel the series and move on. The show ended after season 5 with a whimper rather than a bang. No special finale, no wrap-up movie, just a regular episode that became the last episode because William Conrad wanted more money than CBS was willing to pay. William Conrad passed away in 1994, just 2 years after Jake and the Fat Man ended. He'd had a long, successful career in radio, television, and film, so it's hard to fault him for wanting better compensation in what turned out to be the final years of his working life. But Jake and the Fat Man remains a footnote in TV history, a solid procedural that ended because its star pushed for a raise the network wouldn't approve. Number 4, Sliders. What if you could travel to parallel dimensions where history took different turns? That was the premise of Sliders, the sci-fi cult favorite that premiered on Fox in 1995. Jerry O'Connell, John Rhys Davies, Sabrina Lloyd, and Cleavant Derricks played interdimensional travelers sliding between alternate Earths, encountering worlds where everything from the Soviet Union winning the Cold War to dinosaurs never going extinct. For its first 3 seasons, Sliders was smart, imaginative science fiction that appealed to the same audience that loved The X-Files and Star Trek. John Rhys Davies, fresh off Indiana Jones fame, played Professor Maximilian Arturo, the brilliant and pompous scientist who invented the sliding technology. He was the show's intellectual anchor and arguably its best actor. Then came the behind-the-scenes chaos. After season 3, Fox canceled the show, but the Sci-Fi Channel picked it up for seasons 4 and 5. During this transition, Rhys Davies demanded a substantial salary increase and more creative control over his character. The Sci-Fi Channel, working with a smaller budget than Fox, balked at his demands. The result was one of the most bitter exits in 90s sci-fi television. Rhys Davies was written out early in season 4, in a way that felt spiteful. His character was shot and killed, and the show replaced him with Kari Wuhrer as Maggie Beckett. Then, as if to prove how replaceable everyone was, Sabrina Lloyd also left due to salary and creative disputes. What followed was a slow-motion train wreck. Sliders continued for 2 more seasons, but with half the original cast gone and the budget slashed, it became a pale shadow of its former self. The writing declined, the special effects looked cheaper, and the whole enterprise felt like a bad alternate dimension version of the show that premiered in 1995. Sliders finally died in 2000, a victim of multiple salary disputes and network mismanagement. John Rhys Davies went on to massive success as Gimli in the Lord of the Rings trilogy, proving that sometimes walking away from a sinking ship is the smartest career move. But Sliders fans still wonder what the show could have been if everyone had just agreed on fair salaries and kept the original team together. Number 3, Moonlighting.
Good afternoon. Wow.
Maddie Hayes and David Addison, Sybil Shepherd and Bruce Willis. Sexual tension so thick you could cut it with a knife. Or in this case, a witty one-liner delivered directly to camera. Moonlighting premiered on ABC in 1985 and immediately became a sensation, mixing detective work with romantic comedy and fourth wall-breaking hijinks that felt revolutionary. The show made Bruce Willis a star and reminded everyone that Sybil Shepherd was more than just a pretty face from the Last Picture Show. Their chemistry was electric, their banter was razor sharp, and for 3 glorious seasons, Moonlighting was must-see TV, the kind of show that dominated water cooler conversations before social media made water coolers obsolete. But behind the scenes, things were about as harmonious as a fistfight in a china shop. Shepard and Willis reportedly couldn't stand each other. She was a movie star slumming in television who demanded to be treated like Hollywood royalty. He was a hungry actor trying to break through who resented being treated as the supporting player when audiences clearly loved him just as much, if not more. As Willis's star rose, he wanted more money and equal billing. Shepard, who was the bigger name when the show started, felt threatened by his success and pushed back against giving him more screen time or bigger paychecks. The producers found themselves refereeing constant battles about everything from script changes to shooting schedules. By season 4, the salary disputes and on-set tension had become untenable. Willis was demanding movie star money while still contracted to a TV show. Shepard was demanding that Willis not get movie star money. ABC was caught in the middle of an ego war that made actual warfare look civilized. The show's quality plummeted. Episodes took longer to produce because Shepard and Willis often refused to shoot scenes together. The writers, trying to work around the stars' schedules and feuds, resorted to gimmick episodes that felt desperate. The will-they-won't-they tension that made the show special disappeared once Maddie and David actually got together. And without that spark, all that was left was two actors who hated each other pretending to be in love. The Moonlighting was canceled in 1989, a victim of its own success and its stars' inability to get along. Bruce Willis went on to become one of Hollywood's biggest action stars with the Die Hard franchise. Sybil Shepherd had her own sitcom, Sybil, in the 90s. But Moonlighting remains a cautionary tale about what happens when salary disputes and personal animosity destroy a show's magic. Number 2, Hunter.
Oh, trying to figure out how you can lay off some of Bogota's million?
Sergeant Rick Hunter and Sergeant D-Day McCall, better known as Hunter, and The Brass Cupcake. Hunter premiered on NBC in 1984, starring Fred Dryer as the tough-as-nails detective and Step Faney Kramer as his partner, who could match him punch for punch and quip for quip. It was classic 80s cop show fare, lots of car chases, shootouts, and a partnership that blurred the line between professional and personal. The show ran successfully for 6 seasons, becoming one of NBC's reliable performers in the mid-80s crime drama landscape. Dryer and Kramer had genuine chemistry, and their characters' relationship gave the show an emotional core that elevated it above typical cop show procedurals. Then, after season 6, Step Faney Kramer decided she was done. Reports vary on exactly why she left, but salary disputes were definitely part of the equation. She wanted more money and possibly more creative control. NBC either wouldn't or couldn't meet her demands. So Kramer walked away after the season 6 finale, which ended with D.D. McCall leaving the force to pursue other interests. Here's where things get messy. NBC decided to continue Hunter without Kramer, bringing in a series of replacement female partners for Hunter, including Darlan Flugel as Officer Joanne Malinsky. But viewers didn't want a new partner for Hunter. They wanted D.D. McCall. The replacement characters felt like exactly what they were, replacements for an irreplaceable dynamic. Season 7's ratings plummeted. Critics panned the new direction. Fans organized letter-writing campaigns demanding Kramer's return. NBC tried to salvage the show by bringing in different actresses and tweaking the format, but nothing worked. The magic was gone, disappeared along with Step Faney Kramer's Brass Cupcake. Hunter was canceled in 1991 after 7 seasons, 2 years after Kramer's departure. The final seasons are barely remembered by anyone except the most dedicated fans, existing mainly as an object lesson in what happens when you try to continue a partnership show after half the partnership walks away over money. The story has a bittersweet epilogue. In 2003, NBC reunited Dryer and Kramer for a Hunter TV movie called The Return of Hunter. It proved that their chemistry was still there, still electric after all those years. But it also proved that Kramer's salary demands in 1989 had effectively killed a show that could have run several more successful seasons if everyone had just worked out their differences. Number 1, Star Trek, the original series. To boldly go where no salary negotiation has gone before. Coming in at number 1, we have the most shocking cancellation on our list, and one that changed television history in ways nobody could have predicted. Star Trek. The original series aired from 1966 to 1969 on NBC, giving us Captain Kirk, Mr. Spock, and Dr. McCoy, exploring strange new worlds while delivering social commentary disguised as science fiction. By the end of Season 3, Star Trek was on shaky ground with NBC. The network had already tried to cancel it after Season 2, only to reverse course after a massive fan campaign. Ratings were declining, production costs were high, and NBC was looking for reasons to pull the plug on this expensive space adventure. Enter the contract negotiations for what would have been Season 4. According to various accounts, DeForest Kelley, who played Dr. Leonard Bones McCoy, was pushing for a significant raise. Kelley argued that he was part of the show's core trio and deserved compensation that reflected his importance to the series. At the same time, Leonard Nimoy was having his own contract disputes, demanding better pay and more favorable terms for his portrayal of Spock. NBC looked at these salary demands, looked at the ratings, and made one of the most infamous decisions in television history. They canceled Star Trek after 3 seasons, ending the show just as it was starting to hit its creative stride. The final episode aired in June of 1969 with no fanfare, no special finale, just another episode that happened to be the last. What makes this cancellation particularly devastating is what happened next. Star Trek entered syndication and became a massive hit, finding the audience it never quite had during its original run. The franchise spawned movies, spin-off series, and became one of the most valuable intellectual properties in entertainment history. Kelley and Nimoy both appeared in multiple Star Trek films and made far more money than they ever would have from a few extra seasons of the original series. But here's the thing, if NBC had met their salary demands and greenlit Season 4, we might have gotten a proper conclusion to the original series. We might have seen the Enterprise's 5-year mission actually complete its 5 years. The show might have gone out on its own terms rather than being cut down in its prime. DeForest Kelley and Leonard Nimoy both had successful careers post-Star Trek, but they remain forever associated with their roles as McCoy and Spock. And while the cancellation ultimately worked out for everyone involved, the franchise's success, the movies, the conventions, the cultural impact, it all came from a show that NBC decided wasn't worth paying 2 actors a little more money. Star Trek's cancellation because of salary disputes is the ultimate example of network short-sightedness. NBC saved some money in 1969 and lost billions in the decades that followed. Kelley and Nimoy got their raises eventually, just from Paramount instead of NBC. And there you have it, 10 TV shows that got canceled because one star decided they were worth more than the network was willing to pay. From Ships to Star Trek, these salary disputes remind us that sometimes asking for too much money doesn't just cost you your job, it costs everyone their jobs. So, what do you think? Were these actors justified in their salary demands, or did their greed kill shows that deserve to live?